Welcome back to Essential Dynamics, the wonderful show about growing your business and making it stick. I'm Reed McCollum, your occasional and erstwhile host. Glad to be back and discussing things again with my friend Derek Hudson. Derek, are you there?
Reed, it's so good to be back with you. Thanks for joining me, or thanks for inviting me. However we do it, it's great to be together again on this podcast together today. It
certainly is.
Yeah, it's essential.
It is. I feel it's dynamic. Derek, tell me now, how you been doing this? We've had a very busy year and a lot of talk on essential dynamics and covering a lot of ground. And do you feel there's an area that you would like to pursue that we have not yet touched?
Yeah, there is. As you know, essential dynamics as a concept seems to apply really well to helping business organizations. That's how I got into it. It's also the principles are shown to be relevant in our personal lives and in broader society. And most of the past several episodes, I'm really focused on helping leaders of organizations. And I think we've had some great conversations about getting your business unstuck and trying to make sure that management's attention, which is an important resource, is properly focused and used. I want to branch out, and I see the episode today as a bit of a bridge between talking to individuals who run organizations and then talking also to an audience of people who have an interest in the overall economy and in each of these individual businesses growing and doing better.
And that's interesting.
So there's just a term that came to mind last week in some conversations I was in that I want to explore a little bit. We spend a lot of time, if you pay attention to what's happening in the local economy and what governments and others are trying to do to make the economy better so that, people have jobs and have incomes and stuff, spend a lot of time in what's called the startup space or the innovation ecosystem. And we all want, in our various local communities, we want to have these tech startups be successful, grow, hire people, have great products, and, become worth, millions and maybe hopefully billions of dollars. So there's a lot of energy focused on creating the next Google, the next Spotify, the next, AI superpower. And there's a lot of energy going into that. But I think people are starting to recognize it might be saturated. It might be too much energy. And there's a lot of potential in the current mainstream economy for doing better.
Well, I was going to ask you, Derek, to that point. At what point does a business stop being a startup? A startup is an exciting little term with hope attached, and people get excited about some. In my business, in theater, it's an original. If it's original, oh great, let's do it, or that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
At what point do you stop being original?
Well, there's a few places. One major step that kind of separates the early stage startups from later stage startups is when you start having customers. And no offense to folks who don't have customers yet, but it's when your business is based on PowerPoint presentations, it can be anything and do anything. And you can talk about all kinds of things. And then as soon as you have a customer and the customer is looking for you to deliver value, then you get, you're stuck in the real world now.
Yeah, it narrows you down to focus considerably. It's narrows the focus, I should say. And then your business is your customer.
So your focus very much narrows to the needs of your customer, and you have to deal with reality. You can say, "This is my plan. I'm going to invent this, and people are going to buy it." And then when someone buys it and says it doesn't work, that's a completely different level. So that's one level. And then there's another level at which you might say a business is mature. They've developed a product. People are buying it. They've have to solve a lot of problems to make sure that the product works, the customers are getting it. And then, as we've spoken about on previous episodes, you solve these problems until you get to a problem that you can't solve. And then you're stuck. And that may be at various sizes. But at some point, you have a small company that's chugging along. And for people who are interested in economic growth, they would love to see those small companies become big companies.
Yes. Isn't the goal of a small company to be swallowed by a bigger one? Well,
maybe bought out, maybe grow, maybe just grow slowly, maybe grow fast, maybe, for some companies, just stay as they are. But if you're concerned about the overall economy, you want to see these businesses, collectively grow and hire more people and create more jobs and economic activity. And so the term that we hear for that is to move from startup to scale up. And so scaling a business is I have a business in one location. Now I'm going to scale it to be in 10 locations or 100 locations. Or I have a business that produced one product and now I'm going to produce a new product every year. And so this idea of scaling up is something that's getting some attention, maybe in some ways increased attention, because we've kind of put all of our chips on the startup number. And we're realizing that takes a long time. A lot of startups don't get very big. And we're trying to move the needle on the overall economy. And so maybe scaling is something that should be paid attention to. So what I thought I'd do today is to connect the idea of scaling a company with the work that we've been doing to help companies get unstuck. And so I've come up with 7 steps to scaling your business.
Oh,
and I want to.
That sounds like a successful number.
Yeah, and so I want to talk about them probably over the next couple of episodes, because we do tend to go on.
So 7 steps to scaling your business. Have you already figured out what those 7 are, or are you looking for the 7?
Well, I've got 7, and what I'm interested in is by the end of the next episode, are they still the same 7, or is it 7? Are they same order? But it's fun to think of things this way, and I love alliteration. Otherwise, we wouldn't have people, path, and purpose. So.
I have to tell you a story, Derek.
Go ahead.
Quick. When I was doing summer stock in Yellowstone Park, one of our recurring customers every summer was a man whose family had built an enormous mansion of a cabin just outside of Yellowstone Park, and his name was Stephen Covey.
Yes.
And he used to come to the shows every summer, and I got to know him a little bit. And I remember once he hired me for a small project and gave me as a reward or payment an advance copy of his newest book, 7 Habits of Very Something.
Yeah. It's right up there. Yeah, it's right up here. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, okay. I guess that's what the title was.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, I asked him immediately, what if there's an 8th habit? And he said, well, then I'll write another book, which 20 years later he did.
He did.
Yeah.
That might be our 8th principle, might be then write the sequel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I have to tell you, 7 Habits was obviously an incredible breakthrough for Stephen Covey as a business person, as an advisor and a consultant. And he was obviously revered for that, and justifiably so. His comments were, he was able to distill a lot of business principles into workable solutions and thoughts. And I really appreciated that. But I also have to say that he was never once on time for a show.
Okay. Well, it's nice to know that even the superheroes are regular people. So one of the things that resonates about the 7 habits, and that Stephen tried to do, was to base things on sort of enduring principles.
Yeah.
So the situations could change, but you could go back to these foundational principles. And I think this is something that we'll explore in the next few episodes, because sometimes when the helping organizations want to help businesses, they try to fix a particular problem that they see. And every company is unique. It's quite possible that a government agency doesn't understand a business, but yet they write up a solution that they can do a press release on. It may not be the best solution. So I think a principles-based approach to scaling your business would be highly appropriate. And so maybe that's why there's 7 steps. So let's see what we got. Let's see if it makes sense.
Well, tell me a few. Let's just take a few in order. Tell me the first 3 steps in scaling your business.
Okay, so what I've come up with, and then we can talk about each one of them, is the first one is you need to get really clear about what you're trying to accomplish. Really clear about your purpose, or as we talk about in Essential Dynamics, your purpose X and your purpose Y. One of the ways that purpose X, purpose Y gets manifest is a lot of times there's a natural tension between growth and stability. And so you could have your business all nice and stable, no risk, everything sort of battened down and stagnate.
Yeah.
Or you could take on too much too fast, overbuild your foundation and collapse. And sure. So there's a natural tension. So I am always going to say, let's consider purpose X and purpose Y. But if you're going to scale, the question is, what's the foundation upon which you're scaling? What's the thing you're trying to accomplish? And so that's probably the first step. The second step is to.
I was just gonna, before you leave the first step.
Okay.
I want to know if there's a difference between be clear about your purpose is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
That's the first step. Be
That's
clear
right.
about your purpose. Is that a lot of companies have a mission statement? How is that different?
Sometimes the mission statement is a really good indication of purpose. Other times it might sort of it might deal with a purpose X, and a purpose Y is unstated, and that causes big problems.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And other times the mission it's a statement, it's on the wall, it's not really what people think.
So it's there to be admired more than
it's a marketing tool rather than a sense of real internal purpose. Okay. And then there's lots we can talk about in terms of whether the people are connected to that purpose or not. But that's a step that I have down the line here a little bit. So
all right. What's the second step?
Second one is okay. If you're not growing at the pace you think you should grow, then by definition you're stuck. And so if you're stuck, the question is, where are you stuck? And if you weren't stuck, you would be growing like infinitely. So you're not. And so the question is, let's get really clear about how you're stuck. And that is, there's a lot to that. So we can talk about that one. And then the third one, which we've talked about before, is now it's time to step outside of the work that you do and look at your business as a system.
Okay. I want to clarify some stuff. Let's redefine the second step as get clear. First one is be clear about your purpose. The second is get clear about your progress.
So I'm gonna use the word stuck.
Yeah. Okay. Get unstuck.
Okay. No. So step 2. If the whole thing's getting unstuck, step 2 is document and understand the dynamic which has got you in a holding pattern. So why are you not progressing? Get clear on why you're not progressing. And we talked about this in previous episodes, and sometimes it's because no one's trying to progress. Sometimes it's because you run up against the problem you can't solve. And sometimes it's the business is so complex, you don't actually know which of the factors is holding you back.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay.
And there are some techniques that you can use to identify what we call negative self-reinforcing loops, or some pervasive conflict where the actions that you take reinforce each other and holding you stuck. And I would say I'm going to project right into your business, right into your living room there, Reed, and say, when you're a writer, if you are feeling a bit frustrated
all the time,
the words aren't flowing,
almost never,
then you're not writing well or prolifically.
You're describing my career. And
so then you are frustrated
all the time,
which means the words are not flowing and you are right.
So I'm stuck.
Okay. But if you, however you break that, when you break that and you write a paragraph and you look at it and you say, where did that come from? That's good stuff. Was that me? Then you can write another paragraph, and that's reinforcing in a positive way.
Derek, I really appreciate what you're saying, because as a writer, I have felt that several times, and you get going on a project and you feel, I feel stuck. Yes, the stuckness, that I don't know how to say that properly, but the moments when I am most stuck are actually when I'm unhappy with the direction my story is taking me. But if I can depict that story accurately and honestly, then I feel like it's taking me to a good place.
So I think, Reed, there's a difference between being stuck and, fighting through adversity.
Oh, good.
And both of them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The problem with the stuck is if we don't change what we're doing, we're going to keep in the same loop.
Well, you described the loop very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've had that in writing projects that I've been working on too, that no one's ever read, even when I'm unstuck. But but I think it's a great example of that negative loop. And so the negative reinforces, we got to break through to get to the positive reinforces. So that's step 2 then is like define it for what it is. And you can't move on until you see that you're in some kind of self-perpetuating dilemma or negative reinforcing loop. Or you've just lost complete momentum and you're stuck with inertia. So that was step 2. And then I think I described step 3 as now we step outside and look at the business as a system.
As a system, you sound that, forgive me, that sounds impersonal. That, are you saying we have to look at it objectively?
I think objectivity is definitely part of it. But the other part that I'd say is we have to understand cause and effect. We have to understand things like precedence and dependence. Like this step creates an output that step consumes and creates an output for the next step. And so one of the ways we think about it is that if your business is a system and we've stated a purpose, so now the system has to create the reality of that purpose, or in a business, we have to create value for the customer. And there are steps that are critical to creating value to the customer. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that maybe makes it hard for that to even be seen or discerned. So the first thing is, what's the business system? I have a purpose. It's not producing like it should. What's the system? And then when you look at the system, you're able to see where things are flowing and where they're not flowing, and where there's extra capacity and not enough capacity. When you're busy doing, you cannot see those things.
When you're actually in the process of the production, if I may, when you're in the process of making your product, whatever you're going to sell, whatever is going to make your business attractive, does that mean you're automatically blind to the problems that you have?
Not necessarily automatically, but what we need is an overall systems view. You need to see how the value flows through and gets created in the system. And when you're at one point of it, then, you're at a workstation with an inbox and an outbox and you're, cranking through the step. You can't see the whole system. And so the value of, management in general is that you step back, you're building the system, evaluating the system, refining the system. So if we're going back to our context here of scaling, if we want to do a whole lot more of something, we absolutely have to take a system view. You can't just do more. You can't hire more people, just speed up the line. You can't just buy more raw materials. You have to see it as a system.
What if there's an innate end where you shouldn't really expand, because beyond that, where the expansion will ruin your business?
But so Reed, that's a really interesting point. And so, the premise that we're talking about here is that it's better to scale your business, or if it fits your purposes,
yeah,
then let's scale a business. So there could be some reasons why that wouldn't be a good idea. So let's say, for example, that you're a professional, you're a dentist. You're a dentist.
Okay.
Right. You love dentistry, and all you want to do is help people with their dental health. You want to work in their mouths. If you have enough of a system to get patients in your chair all day, that's one level of the system. If you feel like your particular approach to dentistry, the location that you're in, financial objectives, you're actually more interested in some other things besides actually the practice of dentistry in somebody's mouth, you may feel to expand and have multiple chairs, multiple dentists, evening and weekend hours, and being a training, doing all kinds of stuff. But if you do that, you're going to spend way less time working in people's mouths. And so depending on what you're really interested in, you might choose one of those or the other, and neither of them would be wrong. So when we're talking about sort of public policy, and we want some businesses to grow, we want them to grow a lot, and you can only grow really effectively by taking a systems view of things, because otherwise the constraint that we talked about so many times, when you're growing fast, is going to move around on you like crazy, and you're never going to know where it is. And so every place you add resources to will be the wrong place until you figure it out. And so there's, I guess our premise is getting clear on what you're trying to accomplish and how you're stuck, and then looking at it as a system are three really important steps to being able to scale a business, because you can't just add more speed or resources.
So should you know your endpoint before you even begin? Should you say, I want to grow this business this far and no farther? Or should you take it one step at a time?
I think sometimes there are these natural step changes, and you kind of have to be able to get your head and your stomach around the step change. Some people are really specific about goals. I'm probably less so, because I've put so many projections together with so many numbers that don't mean anything. But I would say that let's get ready for the next step change when that is, and decide if we want to do it or not, and then take it as far as you can, and then think about the next one. So I don't know if this podcast is going to hold up on its own. I mean, we're going to come back and do another one, but that's the first three of the 7 steps to scaling your business, Reed.
I think that's plenty to digest for this week, but I am eager to hear the last 4 steps in scaling your business. I think this has been fascinating. I think it's applicable to many. I worry sometimes, Derek, that my career choice and my experiences are of no value to you because they're so unique, and so theater is so far away from what you present, what you do. And yet I find parallels in every discussion.
We talked about principles, right?
Yeah.
And if they're good principles, they should apply in lots of different places. And so we'll take the extreme example of the theater any chance we can get, because if it works too, then we're on something. We're onto something.
Well, you reminded me very, very specifically of a show that was going very well at a theater that I was running, and it was going very well. And we talked about taking it on the road, and the cost, not financial cost. We thought we could handle the financial cost, but the emotional cost to the cast, and how long, what exactly did we want by taking it on the road? And how do we tell the people on the road it was such a big hit where we were originally? So we decided not to. And I think we made the right decision. From a financial standpoint, we might have made money on a tour, but it was a risk. And I know we would have made our cast very unhappy.
So we're going to get to that in our next episodes when we talk about the people. But that's the kind of step change I was talking about. So we'll pick that up next time. That's awesome.
I think we're about out of time for this podcast, but I sure look forward to the next one. That's a good cliffhanger on which to hang. I just want to say thank you very much to Derek Hudson. Derek, where can people find you if they want to talk to you?
Go on the web and look for getunconstrained.com. We'd be happy to hear from anyone.
And I'm Reed McCollum, and you can't find me on the web because I don't exist as a social person. But I am delighted to say, until next time, consider your quest.